Hello, I'm Kev, and for the last 7 months I have spent 12 days, 16 hours and 23 minutes of those 7 months playing in one Football Manager 17 save. It's the Non-League to Legend series that you've seen on this channel over the course of the last 7 months. We're still going strong 20 seasons in. You could argue we've just recently started going strong-ish 20 seasons in. But regardless, we've got 20 seasons worth of Football Manager save to have a little explore. And like we did at the end of 10 seasons, have a look to see how the wider footballing world has developed 20 years into the future. We'll spend a little bit of time looking at the major leagues. We'll try and pick out some players, look at some of the big names of current modern day football, because obviously 20 years in the future, chances are there's going to be nobody left now who was a player at the start of the game. And at the end of the video, I'll also let you know how you can download your version of this save. So if there's anything that I've not covered in this video, you can download the file, play through it yourself, have a little bit of a root through and find out all the things you want to find out. And if you so choose, carry on playing the game, starting from the 20 season point where we are in the current Non-League to Legend save. So, although it's a little bit different from when we did it at the 10-year point, because at the 10-year point we were nowhere near the Premier League. This time round, as Tottenham manager, we are in the Premier League. But we'll start there anyway and have a little look to see how the Premier League has been progressing over the course of the 20 years of this save. So the obvious place to start is looking at the past winners. And things have changed a little bit since the 10-year video. Because when we did the 10 years into the future video, Man United were completely dominant and spent 10 years where they won the league 9 out of 10 years. Man City just getting in the way that once and knocking United down to second place. But in the 10 years since then, Man United started off being dominant again with City interrupting. But then we got a Chelsea league win, Man United, City, United, then Arsenal getting their first league title since the very first season of the save. And then Man City, Chelsea, and we're now in a situation where it's 3 years since Manchester United have won the Premier League. And that's all because of, where is he? This man, Jose Mourinho, left in 2034. He left 2 seasons ago. And since then, they've been finding it rather tricky to find a manager who sticks. So going through the first 18 seasons of this save with Mourinho in charge, I think Mourinho's now retired. Yeah, Mourinho's now retired. And does that mean he was 73 years old when he retired? No wonder he retired. Goodness me. But since then, they've had Pep Guardiola, who lasted less than a year. They've had Chinedu Eid. Who on earth's he? Presumably, I should know him from real life. He plays for 20 in real life. And has been around a little bit. Managed some big teams in there as well. He lasted just under a year as well. And now they've got Malky Mackay as manager, who is now age 64 and has had quite an interesting career. He's spent quite a long time at Celtic, been at Hull, Bournemouth, Villa, Millwall, Reading, MK Dons, is that where he is in real life? But I mean, he's finally made it to Manchester United. Although Celtic are probably going to be... Oh, no, in fact, Celtic sacked him. So we're now in a world where Man United have fallen so far that a manager can get sacked in the Scottish Premier League, having only previously managed the likes of Hull, Bournemouth and Villa, and then go on to become Manchester United manager. I mean, that's quite the turnaround over the course of just 3 seasons. So Man United, bit of a fall from grace there. Chelsea are... I mean, they're recent Premier League winners. They've had quite the variety of managers. Conte left after just a year. He was sacked. And they've gone through loads of managers in that time. Current manager, lasting just a year at this point, is Joe Edwards, who... Joe Edwards in real life is currently a Chelsea under-23 coach, but he's not gone through the system at Chelsea. He's very much gone the long way round, going to Stoke as a coach and then interim manager, Crystal Palace as a coach, Arsenal as a coach, working his way up to caretaker manager, interim manager, then had 3 seasons as manager of Arsenal and moved on to Chelsea. I think he won the Premier League with Arsenal, actually, if we go back to that past winners thing. So he's clearly got a little bit about him, Joe Edwards. Arsenal themselves, if we have a look at their manager history, I mean, we have to scroll for that one. That's a bit of a contrast to real life. Wenger left in 2019 in the end. He was sacked. Imagine Arsene Wenger being sacked in real life. And then Adam Burchell spent 12 days as caretaker manager. There was Joe Edwards' first caretaker position. And Matthew Flamini spent some time as caretaker manager. Mancini was there for 2 years. And currently it's Paulo Fonseca, who, again, I need to check who he is in real life. He currently manages Shakhtar. Does that sound about right? That seems right to me. And, I mean, he's got Shakhtar, Inter, Benfica, Portugal, Barcelona and Arsenal on his CV. He'd be the kind of man you'd be expecting to take the Man United job, not Malky Mackay. And lastly, let's have a look at Man City to close out this big four of manager histories. They haven't had quite so many. So they started with Pep Guardiola, who lasted 14 years. Obviously didn't win the Premier League very much in that time because Man United were dominating, but did win 5 Champions Leagues before he was moved on. And then since then, Hans Wolf, Andrej Kramaric, and it's currently Eddie Howe as manager, who's had a very interesting career in himself, because moving on from Bournemouth eventually in 2022, he became England manager and won the European International League before spending 8 years at Stoke. And this coincided with Stoke getting some money from somewhere. I suspect there was a big takeover of Stoke and loads of money got thrown at them. But Stoke are very much one of the big four now. And that's largely due to that money and Eddie Howe coming in and doing awesome things for them. He moved on to Chelsea, where he didn't have the best of times, was sacked after a year at Chelsea, but made a bit of a comeback via Benfica and Schalke, and has now got a big English club again. He's Man City manager. I imagine that's going to be it for his career now. He's 58. If he makes anything close to a success of it, he'll spend the next 5 or 10 years there winning lots of trophies. We should probably show you Stoke as well, because this rise of Stoke has been ridiculous. They're rich, 4.5-star worldwide reputation, regularly in the Champions League. I mean, they just don't finish outside of the top 4 very often. They're just a big, big, big team. And if we look at some of the transfers that Stoke have been involved in over the years, 62 million, 71 million, they spend so much money. 110 million, 117 million, 169 million pounds spent that summer. Stoke have some money to throw around 20 years in the future, and they are very much an established major team, despite the fact they don't win stuff very often. They've never won the Premier League. They won the Europa League twice, but they've not got a Champions League win. They've only got 2 FA Cup wins. So they've been around and about competition wins for a long time, but never really picking them up. And I guess for this to be a full-on emergence as a European superpower, they need to win the Premier League at some point. So let's have a look at player records. That's what we want to look at. So if we have a look through the player records, Man United have now won the Premier League 32 times. Stoke still holding the record for fewest points in the season, despite now being arguably a bigger team than Man United, who hold the record for most points in the season. Man United can now fit nearly 95,000 people into their stadium. Lots of these records standing from real life. Biggest win, highest scoring game. This stuff isn't changing. Man City have got the record for most games won in a row, 15 games won in a row. Brighton now hold the record for most games without scoring of 8. And most goals, Andy Cole still got the record for most goals in a season. Ruben Iribarren, that's a familiar name. When he was at Liverpool, scored 6 goals in a match against Stoke just a couple of seasons ago. Age 20 he would have been then. Mesut Ozil's got the highest average rating in a season, most assists, most man of the match. I mean, where did he go after Arsenal? Can we see his career? He moved. In fact, he finished his career at Arsenal. There you go. Stayed at Arsenal until 2024, retiring age 35 as something of a hero. Looking at that, the youngest player in the Premier League now is a young lad called Callum Rooney, who made his debut for Chelsea aged 15. Sorry, debut for Stoke aged 15. But since then has only played another 22 games. He's 24 years old now. His career hasn't turned out the way he'd hoped, has it? And youngest goal scorer was also Callum Rooney. Goodness me, he's holding all these Premier League records. What on earth happened to Callum Rooney? Injuries. Goodness me, injuries. Look at that. That is the story of a career that has been ruined by injuries. He's almost having to scroll. He's only played 23 games in his career, and we almost have to scroll his injury record. But he does hold the Premier League record for youngest appearance and youngest goal. So I guess he's got that. How much is he earning now, age 24? He's earning 1.3, just over £1,000 a week. I mean, it's not to be sniffed at, but we are 20 years in the future, so he's not exactly rolling in it for someone who's got 2 records on the Premier League records page. Can we see... I want to see transfer records, but I don't know where transfer records live. If we sort that by highest transfers, we can have a flick through and see what the biggest transfers each year have been. I've been involved in a lot of the recent ones, but there is still lots of money getting thrown around. Because I've retired my Tottenham manager, all of my nicknames have disappeared, so we're seeing people's original names appearing on there. For those of you regularly watching Non-League to Legend, lots of these will be very familiar names. But if we go back a little bit further, you can see that the amount of money that we're throwing around in our save isn't massively out of sync with what other teams are spending. Man City spending £106 million back in 2032. I mean, if you want to see any of these in a little more detail, obviously download the save and have a look to see what justifies some of these transfer fees. Stoke paying £91 million for a player. I mean, that's just crazy. Nice spending £110 million on a player from Stoke. I mean, was that what started it all? Sergio Tapia. Let's have a look at him. How much did Stoke sign him for? That's not what I want to look at. I want to look at his career stats. So Stoke already had the money. I wondered if bringing in £110 million in one go could have been what sorted Stoke out, but no, they had money before that because they were already throwing money around before that even happened. I might have a little nose at Stoke in a little more detail and just see if it tells us whether they had a massive tycoon takeover at some point. So if we go into financial landmarks, no, nothing. Interesting. So does that mean they've still got their original owners? How do we see who the owners are? General? No. Stoke aren't rich in real life, are they? No? Who knows? Right, let's have a look at some of the other big leagues. I'm conscious that this is already turning out to be a much longer video than I planned on it being. So we're going to do a bit of a quick tour around the rest of European football. If you want to go into it in any more detail, as I say, download the save. The link will be in the description to this video. So if we have a look at La Liga and look at the past winners. Wowzers. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. A massive period of dominance for Atletico Madrid, winning the league, 9 seasons in a row between 2023 and 2032. All Atletico Madrid. That's a bit of a surprise. Real Madrid won the league the season before last for the first time in 15 years. Barcelona have only won it 4 times in the last 12 years or so. Rayo Vallecano have got a La Liga win as well. This is mixing it up a little bit more than the Premier League. What did Atletico Madrid do to become an absolute European superpower? How do we look at look at all those competitions. They've won it 21 times now. That's crazy. Let's have a look at the records, same way we did in England. That's a completely different record screen. That's a much more useful record screen. How have we done that? That's interesting. So, I want to see the bit about who's won it the most amount of times. But oh no, this is because that's Atletico Madrid. That's not La Liga. That explains it. There you go. This is what we want to see. So Real Madrid still most times winners with 35. Barcelona still got the highest average attendance. Nothing massive sticking out there. Messi's got still the top scorer in a season with 50 goals. Lots of these Messi records aren't getting broken. Cristiano Ronaldo, oldest goal scorer in the Liga, scoring at age of 39 years and 82 days for Real Madrid in April 2024. So he obviously finished out his career at Real Madrid. He's 51 now. Became something of a nemesis when I was trapped down in the lower leagues in my save. But as you can see, my career trajectory and his career trajectory have sort of crossed over at some point. And he's most recently been sacked as manager of Accrington Stanley, who are down in League Two. And I think at that point, Ronaldo has probably decided to call it a day after an illustrious managerial career at Orient, Blackburn, Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield, Charlton, and then Accrington Stanley. He did make it as high as sort of mid-table in the Championship around about this point, but then started steering everyone downwards. The Ronaldo effect is pretty brisk relegation. So he's not really my nemesis anymore, is he? In fact, was he completely retired? Oh no, he's still on there as a manager. I might try and appoint him as my youth team coach at Spurs in my save. So that was the Liga. Let's have a look at Germany as well. Bundesliga. There we go. And if we go straight into history and past winners. Wow. Okay. So Bayern had their period of dominance for, 12, 13 years. And then just decided to stop winning it. And Dortmund took over. And they've won it for the last 11 years now. So German football is a bit boring, isn't it? Goodness me. If we look at the records, most time winners are still Bayern with 34. And down in the player records, not much of this stuff has been broken really. Their youngest player, Yannick Depter, what did he go on to do? He's at Leipzig. He's not had the most exciting of careers, has he? I mean, that would do, I suppose. You wouldn't turn your nose at that. He's played a few times for Germany. Certainly better than poor Callum Rooney, who never made it anywhere. What other leagues have we got loaded? We've got Scotland, haven't we? Let's have a look at Scotland. See, why am I just putting Scotland? That's not the name of the league. Scottish Premiership. There we go. So if we look at the past winners of the Scottish Premiership, as you would expect, quite a long period of dominance from Celtic in the middle there. This is the really interesting bit that we looked at in the 10-year episode, because the first 4 years of this save, Celtic only won the league once. Hearts getting it twice, then Aberdeen, then a couple for Celtic, and Rangers finally made it back for their first league win since 2011 after a 12-year wait, but then had to wait another 8 years before winning it again because Celtic just decided to dominate again, with Hibs and Hamilton being the main challengers for a long time. But in recent years, it looks like Rangers have pretty much made it a two-horse race between Rangers and Celtic again. Rangers winning it for the last 3 years in a row, with Celtic finishing as runners-up the last couple of seasons. Most time winners is Celtic with 59, and a lot of those records are still not any different to what they are in real life. Feel free to look through them at your own speed. The only other league that we've got loaded, I think, is France. So I expect this to just be dominance by Paris Saint-Germain. And it pretty much is. Marseille getting a win in there, Monaco a couple of times, but it is just Paris Saint-Germain constantly. And Angers, who I never know how to pronounce, they're the Stoke of France, really. They got a load of money thrown at them at some point around here, I guess, and are now rich and just loads and loads of money that are throwing around on players and wages, but haven't won the French league ever. But they have finished runners-up the last 3 years in a row. So who's going to win the league first, them or Stoke? If we have a look at the records in France, Paris Saint-Germain now 23 times winners, and they are breaking all sorts of records. So they've got most points in a season, most wins in a season, and that's about it. None of the goal scorer records or anything changing. They've got most assists down at Paris Saint-Germain. Nice goalkeeper Bruno Guerrero, 21 clean sheets about 5 years ago now. But Paris Saint-Germain have got the highest average rating. Greg Hurren's an interesting one because I know I've come across him on scout reports before. He's English, spent a long time at Chelsea, but then went to Nice and then Paris Saint-Germain, and has had a complete career resurgence over in France for the last 5 years. He's played 99 times for England as well, and just enjoying knocking about in France for the last 5 years. It shows that the French league reputation is presumably fairly similar to the English one. If a player who was scoring loads of goals for Chelsea, playing loads of times for England, decided, yeah, you know what, I'll go to Nice, and then when I leave, I'll stay in France, I'll just go into Paris Saint-Germain and score loads of goals for them as well. And he's very happy with his decision by the looks of it. Let's have a look at World Cup winners. So, FIFA World Cup, if we go to past winners, we have, since the save started, Uruguay, then Brazil, Spain, Portugal, Argentina. Nothing really, really surprising. I guess Uruguay in 2018 is the big surprise on there. Morocco getting runners-up in 2030. That's, I guess, a bit unexpected. And USA, third place, 2034, maybe. So who were the hosts? Japan? Japan hosted it before. When are England going to get a World Cup again? Goodness me. Even Canada have had one. Didn't go to Qatar, though. Interesting. World Cup records. Brazil have still won it 6 times, or have now won it 6 times. Let's have a look at the Euros as well. So, Euro. Is that what it's called in this? Euro. UEFA European Championship. And if we go to... This is going on at the moment, I think. So this is about to change. But 2020, it was Germany, then Portugal winning it back-to-back, then Spain. And this year... Are we into the knockout stages yet? No, we're still in the group stages. But Ruben Iribarren, top goal scorer, top for average rating, man of the match. He's having a good Euros, isn't he? So that is it for my tour of the footballing landscape in 20 years in the future. So that's in the summer of 2036. If there's anything you missed out on, then head down to the link in the description. You'll be able to download this save yourself, have an explore of your own save. If you find anything really interesting, let us know down in the comments, and I'll be sure to include your interestingness in an upcoming episode if it is of the requisite amount of interestingness. And also get started on your own saves in this one. You can take over as Tottenham, where I've been manager for the last few years, or just pick your own team anywhere in the save. See what you find that's interesting. I mean, if we go straight into let's go to League 2 and see if we've got any teams down there who are an interesting team to have a resurgence with. That's the one thing we did last time that we didn't really do this time. So Dulwich Hamlet are in fact, let's go up to the Championship. Forget this outro, Kev. Let's see what teams are in weird divisions. Ebbsfleet up in the Championship. Ipswich down in the Championship again. Leicester with them. Okay, let's have a look at League 1. League 1, who have we got out of place in League 1? Dartford are in League 1. And everyone else looks about right. Tranmere back up into League 1. League 2, we've got Blackpool still hovering down in League 2. Dulwich Hamlet, which we mentioned before. Posh are down in League 2 as well. That's not acceptable. In the Vanarama National League, let me know in the comments if there's any big teams that you don't see at all on here. Remember, last year's non-league legend, we had Bolton fall out of the league structure completely. And it'd be interesting to see if there's any team that have done that this time around. No one but Northampton down in the National League is the big one. I guess St Neots up into it. And then if we look in the Vanarama North, these all look about right. No, nobody you'd really expect to be higher up in there. And then in the south, I mean, that's really... Hungerford, I've never heard of them, I don't think. That's really boring. Torquay, I guess, in the Vanarama South is a bit of a surprise, but not massively. We haven't got a Bolton this year by the looks of it. That makes me sad. So, if you have enjoyed this, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.